Three, four.
Hello and welcome to Screen Slurps, the movie review podcast where we discuss the good, the bad, and the savage in the world of cinema. I'm Adam Meisner.
And I'm Laura Herlocker.
And this week, we are talking about something that I cannot pronounce correctly. Chandigarh Kare Aashiqui.
I wrote down, I went to Google Translate, I put in the title, and I hit, where it says it for you, and I listened, 4 times, and then I wrote it out really, specifically. So I think you were really close, though. I think it's, Chandigarh Kare Aashiqui.
Oh, I got the second one wrong, the second word.
I could be pronouncing it wrong. This is just me listening to Google Translate try and pronounce it. But we're close.
Yeah.
I think I'm just going to shorten it and call it CKA.
That sounds like a punk rock band from the 90s, like CKY.
Is that a band?
Yeah, is it not?
I believe you, babe. You're the musician here. I don't know.
I remember CKY. They were a rock band.
Can you sing any of their songs?
No. I never listened to CKY. I just remember they were a big deal and Hot Topic selling the CKY shirts and everything.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I totally missed on that. I was afraid to go into Hot Topic when I was younger.
I mean, Hot Topic was selling more, My Chemical Romance.
It was a different place in the 2000s than it is today.
CKY was something like the Bam Margera kind of band.
Oh, okay.
Punk rock skater band.
Okay, I get it then.
Yeah.
As I said, I was afraid of Hot Topic, but I was obsessed with Viva La Bam, which was Bam Margera's TV show. I was a weird person.
You had to be very edgy and hardcore to be into CKY.
Yeah, I didn't shop at Hot Topic. I was the Aeropostale, thought I was cool and preppy cheerleader kind of girl, which, oh God, now I think back on it, I'm I sucked.
This has nothing to do with the film we're talking about this week, but
no, tangents.
Anyways, we'll be talking about
CKA.
CK.
We can just call it Zumba.
I like that. So, yes, there is a teacher who teaches Zumba in this movie, and that was definitely a reason that we decided to watch this movie. It was because in the preview of the film, that song that they were singing during...
Even the lyrics were just Zumba, Zumba, weren't they?
Man, that was okay. Yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll get into that. But before we get into the movie of this week, we're going to talk a little bit about our side slurps, something that we talk about every week on this show. And if this is the first time you're listening to our show, our side slurps are things that we've done other than watch the movie of the week. Things like watching a different TV show, maybe watch another movie. Maybe we were just sprinting like the Flash. Who knows what we've been doing? Maybe we started to play I've got a keyboard next to me, and maybe I was just playing that all week. I wish I had the time to do that anymore. But Laura, what have you been doing?
Definitely not running like the Flash, I'll tell you that.
If we could do that, man, you never know.
Out of here.
You never know with science these days.
It's true. No, this week, I don't know, work has been crazy for me this week just because I'm training a new hire. So I feel I don't know, I've had time to do side slurps, but they're just kind of all over the place. I mean, as they usually always are. You and I, Adam, both have watched a plethora of random TV shows, I feel this week. So we watched some episodes of Old Enough on Netflix, which I am obsessed.
That show is hysterical.
It's so
and
cute.
Adorable.
So the premise of the show, it's a Japanese reality show. And I think it's an older show, right? It came out a while ago. It's not recent.
I think they were saying it was 2006.
Yeah, or 2000s.
2000 something.
But essentially, the show follows children, toddlers. The one episode, he's like 2.5. Another episode, it was like a 4-year-old or something.
Kind of scary to think about it like that. Yeah. But at the same time, they are so smart to do these things on their own.
Yeah, so it's following these kids as they're going on errands for the first time by themselves. So, you know, like in the very first episode, it's like this little 2.5-year-old who's going to get like curry. Wasn't it curry or something from the grocery store?
Yeah, he had to go to the grocery store by himself.
He like crossing a big street all on his own.
He was given a very large sign to stop traffic if you needed to cross the street.
Yeah, a big yellow flag thing.
Yeah.
The show is just so freaking cute, and it makes me emotional. I like cry every episode because they're just so cute, and I can't handle it. At the same time, I'm like, these are babies. Like, they're so grown up doing this all on their own. That's why I get emotional. But
it is so funny.
Everyone go watch it because it'll just make you happy. We also... So I made Adam watch some New Girl with me. That's my like background show right now. I just put New Girl on to also make me happy. So we watched some of that this week. I just started today Severance, which is a new Apple TV show with Adam Scott. That's his name, right? From Party Down and Parks and Rec.
I think so, yeah.
And it's directed by Ben Stiller, which I was like,
it's pretty random.
But it seems like an interesting show. I'm interested to see where it goes. Like, Adam, I don't think you know anything about it. So the plot is essentially the people that work for this company have undergone like a medical, some kind of brain thing that like it completely separates their personal life and their work life. So when they come into the office to work, they don't know who they are like outside of that building. They have nothing about their personal life. And then, you know, also then when they leave work at the end of the day and leave the building, then they have no idea like what their job is or what they do for work. It's weird. Like I'm interested to see where it's going to go and like what it's going to lead into.
I feel like I can already relate to that in my real life.
It feels like a totally different world at work. Yeah, honestly. We also watched Death on the Nile, Kenneth Branagh's new, I think it came out last year, new film based on the Agatha Christie novel. Listeners, as you probably know, I've talked about this before. I love Agatha Christie. She's like one of my favorite classic authors. I can read, you know, a Poirot or a Miss Marple mystery like any day. So this is Kenneth Branagh's interpretation of her book Death on the Nile, kind of like a sequel to his movie that he did a few years ago now, Murder on the Orient Express. And Kenneth also plays Poirot. If you don't
have an interest in Agatha Christie, just watch the movie for the handlebar mustache.
That's what I was just about to bring up. Kenneth Branagh, he's directed, but he also plays Poirot, who's like the main detective. He's got the craziest, like double handlebar twisty mustache in this
movie. 2 mustache in 1.
Yeah. I don't know. The movie, it was okay. You know, it was like a good watch. I don't think it was anything spectacular or like earth-shaking about it or anything. And I mean, Armie Hammer's in it, and he's a problematic man. So,
but Kenneth Branagh was just great to watch. He's
a cool guy. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he's a bad human being, but he seems like he's just kind of like a cool guy.
Yeah, is he though? Does he have a bad rep?
I don't know. I literally know nothing. I think there was some drama with him. I think he was married to Emma Thompson, the actress. And I do think there's like some drama that happened there.
We'll have to do some digging on that.
I don't know. Maybe I just don't want to even look into
Don't even unearth
I don't want to
drama.
Bring
don't
that
spill
into
the tea
life.
on that.
I just always remember, like, when I hear his name, I instantly think of him as Gilderoy Lockhart in Harry Potter. You remember Adam? He was the professor that was like dumb and very like, look at me, I'm so great. And it turned out he like did nothing. He like brainwashed or took everyone's memories and claimed that he did the things they had done. He's a defense against the dark arts professor. Anywho's, I always remember him as that character, which is like totally different from Poirot, you know, totally different. Yeah. And then lastly, just the other thing. Well, gosh, I feel like now I said I didn't have a lot, but now I'm talking and I'm like, I do have a lot of things. I read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which is like probably the best book I've read in a very long time. It was amazing. So good. Everyone, please go read that book. And yeah, then this week, my book club met up. We had read School for Good Mothers, but we went to trivia and we did not do great. We were in 3rd place for like the first few rounds and then we didn't end well. So no trivia prizes for us, but that's okay. We're going to go back. We're going to redeem ourselves. And that's it. I'll be quiet now.
So I honestly don't have much to say for this last week, but I will say the things that I have been doing. There are a couple things that are really not too crazy, but I will say the one thing that's probably the major highlight is a podcast that I have been listening to. I will definitely suggest it, and no, I'm not getting paid to say this, but it is a fantastic podcast. It is called The Trojan Horse Affair, and it is a brand new podcast that is listed in an article from NPR as Serial's best podcast since S-Town. And I will also say, if you haven't listened to S-Town yet, you should make that a homework assignment to listen to, because that is also a fantastic podcast series. These are both very short podcast series. The Trojan Horse Affair is only 8 episodes, and S-Town is about the same, if I remember correctly. It's about 8 episodes to listen to.
What's the Trojan Horse Affair about?
I'll do my best to explain
without giving things away
what it is, but basically there's this whole speculation in Britain that this Muslim guy who was running this school had this whole idea, this whole situation where him and his colleagues were going to start taking over other school, basically like district or schools, with his colleagues, and basically take out the higher ups of those schools and enlist like his colleagues to take over the schools and put his ways into those schools of making them more like Muslim oriented and things like that, and make them like those kind of like student body teaching styles and things like that. And so this like what was called the Trojan Horse, this document appeared and said that he had this whole scheme like devised, and that was why these certain teachers were getting fired from their schools, was because this Muslim man had this whole situation planned out. And so then the community, the school, not the school district, but basically the teaching, I can't think of the correct word to say, but the community school board, or how you would say that, they were basically like, okay, well then he can't be a part of the education community anymore, and he can't teach, and neither can his colleagues, and we're gonna have to like remove all of them. And
interesting.
So
I didn't realize it was about like public school education.
Yeah, and so he was like the head of this one school, and they went from a 30% like graduation rate and like passing rate to a 70% rate when he took over and like put in his teaching ways and things like that. And he wasn't even like trying to like take over other schools or anything like that. There was like none of that even happening. Mm-hmm. But then this document appeared and said, oh, he's trying to take over these other schools and he's got this whole plan. And he was like, no, I don't. This is totally fake.
So it's like who was setting him up?
Yeah, pretty much. And like who was like trying to screw out all of these other teachers too.
Yeah, wow.
And then the entire community is like, oh, this is a real thing, so we're gonna have to fire all these people. And they're all like, what are you talking about? This isn't even a real document. And they're like, nope, it's real. And so they just fired off all those people. And then like the other schools are like, do.
Right.
You know.
Wow. That's way more like involved than I was expecting, I guess.
Yeah.
It sounds good, though. Maybe I'll have to listen to it now.
No, it's really good. And especially because the people that they're attacking with that document are all Muslim.
Right.
So it's just like, okay, you jerks, like you racist jerks. And
yeah, unfortunately, that's the world we live in. But
yeah, so
no, that's good. I was trying to find a podcast today to listen to. I should have asked you. I could have got that one.
That's really good. I'm on the 7th episode right now, so I'm almost through the whole thing. S-Town, the one that came well before the Trojan Horse Affair, that I was listening to while I was in grad school back in 2016, and S-Town is actually more of like a murder story. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. that's a different scale, but I also very much suggest that one. So definitely 2 podcasts I highly suggest, but the Trojan Horse Affair literally just came out very, very recently. And so that's why I was listening to that. It was just suggested on The Secret, not The Secret Life. It was just
Secret Life of the American Teenager.
It was just suggested on This American Life. So that's
close
why
to Secret Life.
yeah.
Very close. Sorry, I'm gonna open my beer. So do you want me to put it by the mic so you get a nice noise?
Looks like a.
Ooh.
And then other than that, I have been reading about becoming the next best supervillain in the novel How to Take Over the World by Ryan North. This is the first book I have read by Ryan North, and I just want to say thank you, Ryan. I'm learning so much about how to take my superpowers to the next level from you. And I'm also actually learning a lot about the world because of you. You got a lot of nice notes about where to be placing my supervillain base and where
not in a volcano.
Where the best, not in a volcano or not underneath the ocean, because that's not exactly a good place to put a super base because of the lack of oxygen and things like that. You
got
make
the
some very good
mustache
point.
to be a villain.
I do. My handlebar mustache is growing quite nicely right now.
It would be perfect. Why you have to be? I always think of French though too. Whenever I think of handlebar mustaches, why is that?
Poirot.
He's not French.
You might as well be.
I think he's Belgian.
Or the guy from Ratatouille.
He doesn't have a mustache.
No, he doesn't, does he? But you would assume
he
so.
should. Like, picturing though,
you would
I'm
think
like,
he'd have like a handlebar
a little
mustache.
skinny one, a really thin one.
Well, they do call the mustaches French mustaches.
Who's the guy from the old cartoon with
Dick Dastardly?
Yeah, the racing one. Yeah, he has like Muttley. That really thin, long, curly one. That's what I picture. But he's not French either, so I don't know why I always think of like a French man. But
okay, well,
yours is bushier. You don't have a thin one.
I've got the Western mustache.
Yeah, you're going a bit Sam Elliott on me, baby.
Maybe that can be one of the next movies we touch base on, a Sam Elliott
Tombstone?
Film.
Is he in
I think, didn't we already do that? Yeah, Sam Elliott is
I've never seen it.
Sam Elliott is in Tombstone with Val Kilmer.
I've never seen it. And Kurt Russell?
Yeah.
We should watch it.
Anyways, that's what I have been up to this past week. And without further ado, we will dive straight into our movie of the week.
Chandigarh Kare Aashiqui.
Wow, that was really good. Or CKA, as we will call it. But wow, what a movie this was. And boy, did this movie take me by surprise in more ways than one. I'm just going to say it right now. I thought this was a really interesting film.
I think it's an important film. Like, that's like the way I just have been thinking about it.
Yeah, I want to ask you straight from the top of our episode here. How many Bollywood movies do you think really tackle the kind of issues as seriously as this film seems to have? Because this film, I haven't even
give
started
away at the beginning. We can just say though, like, it tackles things having to deal with like the LGBTQ community. You know?
I think that's really what drew me into wanting to watch this film from the beginning, because there's not a whole lot of Bollywood films I see out there that even try to discuss the LGBTQ community. No,
exactly. I mean, you and I have a limited view, obviously, of Bollywood films. We haven't seen that many. It's not, we're, just kind of like getting into it. But from reading articles of when this movie came out and like kind of looking more into it, it does seem like there are not, and listeners, if there's more out there, like, please let us know. But I think because, being free about your sexuality has, it's been legal, I think, in India for a few years, but, it still like has a stigma to it, as it does here in the US, but I think it's a little more conservative in India still at this point. So it doesn't seem like there are a lot of, TV shows or film that are talking about these topics. Like, when I was reading, it did kind of seem like this is one of the first films, to really tackle some of the things that happen within the plot and things. So that's why I said I think this film was so important, because I think it's great that you were finally having a movie, that is talking about other people and talking about acceptance and, being true to yourself and your identity.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to jump on what the plot is of this film.
Oh, please don't read the one from IMDb, because it makes me really mad.
I don't know what IMDb says, but just the general plot of this film is sort of stated online as Manu, a bodybuilder from Chandigarh, India, falls in love with Maanvi, a Zumba teacher. All seems well until a revelation causes turmoil in their love story. Just a very general sort of plot synopsis of this movie. And I think I would say it's a very good sort of general wrap of what happens in this movie.
I won't say what the IMDb one is right now, because it kind of gives away the twist, which we'll get to. But if I remember, I'll bring it back up when we get to that point, and I'll tell you why it makes me so mad.
Okay. All right.
But I think that is a good plot. That is what the movie is about, right? It's a rom-com, but also like a sports movie.
Yeah.
And also like a drama. It definitely felt like this movie went through several genre transitions, which maybe was to its benefit. But yeah, we've got a bodybuilder falls in love with the Zumba instructor, and then we have the conflict, and then we have the resolution.
And I would say in a lot of rom-coms, yes, there is drama. You can expect that in a rom-com.
Yeah, there's always a conflict.
The drama in this movie is just so real.
Much more.
So real. And
yeah. It's more than like a silly rom-com drama where it's just like miscommunication, or, some little secret that like, oh, he gambles. I don't know. So, like the conflict in this movie is such a like bigger, and not bigger in that it's like more dramatic. It's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's more than something frivolous.
Right.
It's having to do with like someone's identity.
Well, usually the stereotypical American rom-com or something is that it's like Timmy is lonely and he can't find a girlfriend, and then Timmy falls in love with Sherry, and then Timmy finally takes Sherry on a date and they're about to get married, but Sherry sees that Timmy's flirting with Janet.
Miscommunication. That's always what it is.
Sherry decides that she's going to leave him, and then Timmy sees that and then freaks out and then apologizes to Sherry, and then there's a resolution, and then they decide they're actually going to get married finally. Right. So then the movie's over.
Right.
And then that's it.
No, exactly. That's
the
what,
movie.
Like frivolous, dumb conflicts. And this is like an important conflict. It's something that's like so, and it's just, again, I don't know, I like the words I want to explain it. So the film was directed by Abhishek Kapoor, and I think kind of how I want to describe it too is like just the way he described why he wanted to make this movie. And he was just saying that he wanted to make a film that really called for like a change in the mindset of, the people watching it, and to be more accepting of people. And that's kind of why it's hard for me to come to words, like bring up with words about why the conflict in this movie is like so much more than just a normal rom-com. It's because it is making people like open their eyes to different experiences and, different ways that people live their life, and kind of accepting that and realizing that they're all people. Yeah,
because this movie isn't sugarcoating it like every other film does.
Yeah, it's just, it's good. Like, it's important. Like, I'm just going to keep saying it. It's such an important movie.
Yeah, well, I think, let's talk about it. So the introduction of this movie is basically Manu he's 32 and he's still not married, like most other romantic comedies. So Manu is very well built, and he is a gymnast. He's a bodybuilder. I say gymnast, like, he's always going to the gym.
Can we talk about though, like, so the actor is Ayushmann Khurrana. Sorry, that's as good as I can get.
We're trying.
We've seen him in Barely Ki Barfi. So we've watched him in some other movies. Can we talk about how ripped he got for this movie?
Yeah,
Holy
he got jacked.
His thighs, just the bulging muscles in his thighs. Holy crap.
Yeah, he is.
I was
ripped.
amazed by it. But yeah, so he's a bodybuilder. He owns a gym along with his two best friends who are like the comedic relief, I feel like, in this movie. They're twins. They're just kind of like we're funny. Like they were funny. So he owns a gym and he has been competing for the GOAT. The GOAT
That is
title.
A very silly name for
because like we use the GOAT for like Tom Brady, right? Greatest of all time. I think they're using it in the same way there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But Manu keeps losing to Sandy, this guy named Sandy.
Oh, Sandy.
And so, you're starting out the movie, we're seeing like, okay, we got Manu. He really wants to win this championship. He is like so focused on beating Sandy finally. But at the same time, like his gym is not doing well, like financially. They don't have very many people coming in there at all to use the gym or anything. And so his dad gives him like a nice ultimatum and is like, you either pay me back, like get your gym working and pay me back, or you come and join the family business, which I think they mentioned at one point was like selling toilets, right?
Yeah, he's a toilet salesman.
So he's like, you either get your gym going and pay me back, or you come to the family business and sell toilets.
Yeah, so not a very good trade-off. It's either you have a successful gym or you become a toilet salesman. His
family man were on him too, because like his sisters at the same time.
His sisters were always on him about finding a girl and getting married.
Thinking he was gay maybe because he wasn't dating women, but he was just like, no, I'm just focused on winning this GOAT championship. Like leave me alone.
Yeah, and then they would just not leave him alone.
But I think that's something though that is important, like to talk about. So I think Chandigarh, where this is set, is like a small, it's not a small town, but you have the idea of like a small town. It's very like traditional and patriarchal. So, it is like the family structure where like the men are, to provide and get married. So I think that like plays a big part in what happens later on, in the way that like Manu reacts to the conflict, right? Is because he's brought up in this very more like conservative idea. And so, it is expected that he's like 32. He needs to be, provide for the family, like be financially stable, have his own family. So I think that's why the sisters are like so dynamic, also trying to like help set up that construct of their family.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's just a general concept that not only is probably brought up in Manu's family, but it's just the concept for many families, because that's just been the traditional mentality for a very long time for a lot of people. Is it's like if you have a son, then it's just the idea is that, okay, well, once you're old enough or when you're, out of high school, then find a woman and get married, and you basically bring home the bacon and she stays home and makes the food. And
I think that's like across societies, that's even here in the US and everywhere, really.
I think we're finally at a point now in 2022 that we're slowly teetering out of that into a, cross world where it's like, okay, it's not just women that have to stay home and men who have to come home and be the ones working the job, but it's finally getting to that point where it's like we can all work jobs and we can all, if we need to stay home, if someone has to stay home, it doesn't just have to be, women, but we'll continue to discuss that as we go along here. So with the idea of the gym failing, Manu is bringing in this Zumba teacher into the gym. And the Zumba teacher is Maanvi, this woman who is going to be teaching Zumba, which weirdly enough, Manu can't even say Zumba properly. He's calling it, Jumba? I think because they're trying to make him seem like in the beginning, like a bit of a douche, where he's like, this isn't working out. This is this is a woman's thing. It's frivolous. Because remember when the twins said there was like a Zumba instructor coming, he was like, really? We have to bring this into our gym. Yeah. So I think he was saying Jumba to be kind of like
a jerk.
Yeah.
Until he like sees her and he's like, hubba hubba.
Yeah. And he's lifting weights and he totally rips one.
I know. I was like, why are they having him fart? But then she doesn't even like react to it.
I know. She's kind of like, okay.
I'm here to teach Zumba. The Zumba looks so fun. I've been to some Zumba classes. It is a lot of fun. I really love it. But I don't know, something about just like the music is just so much better than like the Zumba music that we have over here.
I thought it was really funny, too, that he kept lifting weights and kept trying to tell Maanvi that he was trying to work on his squat and his tension with his body so that he could win the GOAT. And she's telling him, oh, well, you should try Zumba. That'll get your body fit. Like, that'll help with your squatting.
Yeah. I mean, it would. It gives him that flexibility. We should do a Zumba class, Adam.
Okay. I just want to get the dancing down when I'm doing the Zumba. Just get my hips going.
Get those hips going, swinging, moving side to side.
But that gets me thinking about one of my favorite parts in this entire movie is when him and Maanvi are celebrating at Holi and they begin to dance together. And they're dancing with their own groups. It's the men dancing together. It's the women dancing together. They got all this color splurging all over the place.
Splurging.
Yeah, they're splurging with the color. Red all over, blue all over.
Yeah, it's like colored powder, I think.
Yeah.
Just like, it looks so fun.
Is that not a splurge? Because they got so much color.
No, I know. Splurge is just a weird word. That's why I was laughing.
But it was so funny, too, because the music that they were singing, the one lyric that they were using, like floating booty in the air or something like that.
There was, I can't remember what it was.
I think
but there were some interesting lyrics booty, in that song.
Yeah.
But that might just be like English translation. That
was hysterical that they were talking about how...
That was a fun scene.
Yeah, the floating booty. And she's dancing, just I could not get over how funny I thought that was, but
that was good. And
I guess it was true.
Hey, she's dancing. She got that booty going. And that's the scene too where we really finally see that like Manu has fallen in love with Maanvi,
right?
And he's like, "Come and get like, let me get some, girl."
Yeah.
And they're making out and she's trying to tell him something. Like she's trying to be like, wait, like I need to say something before we kind of move further. And he's like, be quiet. I don't want to hear it.
Like, no.
And then we get a whole sex montage.
Yeah. And then he goes for it.
A lot of sex.
She's fine with it. He's fine with it. And then we get a whole montage of them always hooking up, him making out with her, all these different places.
So at that point, when she's trying to stop him, I think there were clues earlier in the movie kind of pointing to like there's something else maybe happening, with her. But then like at that point, you realize there really is. What is it she's trying to tell him?
I think particularly to the scene earlier when she's on her phone and she's on a dating app and it's asking what sex are you? And she just kind of stares at her phone. I mean, to choose to have a scene and a collection of shots where it's showing the phone and it's asking, what sex are you? And it just kind of goes from cutting from that shot to her face. And she's just that like intent pausing, looking at her phone, thinking, like she can't decide what sex she was.
Well, there's also this scene too where she's on the phone with her father and it shows her father like in his office. And if you look on the bookshelf next to him, it looks to be pictures of like a young boy. And then so you're like, is this him? Does Maanvi have a brother, or who is this person? You know, like I think it was done really well that it from the beginning, you kind of start to get these like little hints about what is coming.
Yeah, absolutely. And so then it just keeps going from there.
They're happy. It's blissful.
They are so happy. Manu and Maanvi, they are incredibly happy together until finally Manu goes off to Maanvi's place, kind of at a surprise, and Manu asks Maanvi, hey, I really like you and will you marry me? I'm ready for this. And Maanvi replies to him, I've really got to tell you something. I was born a man, and I've always been a woman inside, and I just had surgery done 6 years ago. And at that point, that's where this movie takes a very, very big
Quick
turn.
Yeah.
And starts having some really dark dialogue.
It gets very intense, like really intense. I mean, he did it for a reason, because so like I was explaining earlier, Manu comes from a very, traditional, like more conservative family. So when she first says like, I'm a trans woman, he has no idea what that even means. He's like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't get that. He hasn't been exposed to like this kind of lifestyle.
As you say that, though, I am thinking that his response to that is like, this guy is just a total dick. He's just a total jerk. And he does have an understanding. My assumption for him to react like that is this guy must understand what he is seeing and what he is saying to her. And he's just a total, like, he's just a dick. Like, no, this guy is just a jerk.
What I'm trying to explain, though, is that, like, he didn't know that was a thing. You know what I mean?
I understand that, so, like, after I've seen the movie now. So just
when he's, like, realizing, like, wait a minute, you said you were born like as a boy. He's like, how is that even possible? Like, he doesn't get it, And then he just like, he doesn't understand it, even though he's like, I'm looking at a woman, but you say you were a boy before. Then he suddenly doesn't understand it, and he just starts freaking out like, I had sex with a man, like, you lied to me, you cheated to me. Like, he, like you said, though, he reacts horribly. But I think they were trying to set it up in the beginning to kind of give you a reasoning of like why he reacts that bad. I am not justifying the way he reacted, like, whatsoever. It was horrible. Like, the things that he says, and he like pretty much goes off on Maanvi and is like, I'm gonna ruin your life, like, you're never gonna work here again. He's just like horrible.
Everything that he says to her is just incredibly crude, and he does not ease up on her for the longest time.
Yeah.
And anytime that he talks to her, it's just like, I don't want to talk to you. I'm only talking to you because I need you to say this to my family, and that, like, we're never going to be together, and that you're not going to be a part of my life, and I need you to do this. So, like, and then we'll never be together. And,
but at the same time, like, he can't leave her alone.
Yeah.
And he like kind of does stick up for her, like when the twins call her more derogatory terms, and he like starts beating them up for saying things about her, So right. You're kind of seeing like he's struggling with this because he does have feelings for her. He wanted to marry her, and like, I don't think that just goes away instantly. So he's trying to fight with this idea that, like, in his mentality, it's a man. And, so he was having sex with a man. Like, he doesn't understand that she's not a man, But at the same time, he's like, I have feelings for her, but I shouldn't.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people had that mentality, too, and especially his family. And as they learn that he was with her and had feelings for her, they are trying to figure out what kind of problems he had to even have a relationship with her. They're asking him what is wrong with him.
Yeah.
And
the sisters
what issues he had. Yeah, because they're doing this sort of spy effort to figure out what she's doing, what's going on. And when they learn that she was initially born as a man, then they flip out. They tell the entire family. The entire family comes back on Manu.
And they even go to the gym, and like this video goes viral of them exposing her, and it's just absolutely horrible. Like, the way that Manu and his entire family treated her is so inexcusable. And I mean, not to get ahead, but like the things that he did and said, I don't think his redemption at the end was like enough to make up for it. Like, if I was Maanvi, I would have never taken him back because of the things that he said. It was horrible.
Yeah. But I mean, the thing about this movie is that as hard as it is to watch this movie from any perspective, and if you don't have a hard time watching this movie, then I guess kudos to you for having a lack of emotion.
Person,
like,
yeah.
But as hard as it is or was for me to watch this movie for the kind of language that they use in when they talk to each other.
Just
when Manu is talking to Maanvi the way that he does, or the family talks to Maanvi for being who she is.
Yeah.
It's the craziness is that this is how people talk to each other in the real world.
No, this is what trans women and men experience every day.
And that's what I think makes us a better film, because a lot of movies do not put this kind of language in their movie, I think for fear of it being maybe perhaps frowned upon, or they don't want it to be that direct. They want to soften it up a little bit for ease of viewing. But I think for this being a little bit harder to watch for that reason, it's very much a learning experience.
Oh no, for sure. And at the same time, I loved how like unapologetic Maanvi was about like being her true self. You know, she was so, I mean, unapologetic. You know, she was just like, I am a woman. And she never backed down. You know, every time like Manu would come at her, she'd be like, no, you listen to me. Like, this is my life.
Make her character feel empowered.
Exactly. And it kind of reminds me, what's the movie you and I just watched? Tangerine. Is that what it was called? And again, that's about trans women. And they were also like very unapologetic and very sure of themselves and being in their own identity. And I think that's just so important because, I don't know, it's like, they should be. That's who they are, right? They don't need to justify their identity to anyone else. Like, you should accept them for the way they accept themselves. Who you are.
And I think another part of this movie that was it just made me feel very uneasy emotionally was just the fact that Maanvi couldn't even talk to her own parents or her own family, because I think was it her aunt, I think was who she was talking to. I don't think it was her mom.
At the time where she was asking about the boobs, that was the aunt. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, I don't know if they were talking about who was staying at the hospital or what was going on, but she was talking about her being a boy or something like that. And she's like, I am Maanvi. This is who I am. Can't you just, love me for who I am and things like that?
Oh, that was with her mom. Yeah, yeah. Because Maanvi's whole family, aside from her dad, he's the only one that kept in contact with her. And he had to do it secretly.
Yeah.
Because her mom and the rest of the family all just like disowned her.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you're saying, we see that when they're at the hospital because her father has a heart attack and the mom like refuses to, say she, like use the pronouns that she wants, and is always just like, you were my son, you were a beautiful boy, what happened?
Yeah.
And that's, Maanvi's like, I'm Maanvi, like I'm still your child, like accept me for me. But again, as we said earlier, that's what trans men and women have to go through every single day. Like this movie is showing you, again, and like the director wanted to, exposing you to these different lives. Like everyone is a person, and just be like accepting of how everyone wants to see themselves. It's just like, I'm getting worked up thinking about it. Like this movie made me like feel so many emotions, and it's just like, oh.
Yeah. The dialogue that is used in this film, it just really gets the feelings going, the emotions going.
Yeah.
To think how some families and some people, the things that they have to go through.
And so we're at this part where they're at the hospital, and this is around the time when Manu has started like researching and looking more into being like what it means to be someone who's transgender, and like how they become that and their identity. He goes and talks to like a doctor. Yeah. Which I don't know.
See, this makes me think back to what you were saying earlier when he first learns that Maanvi was born a man but received surgery 6 years ago, and she felt that she was a woman her entire life, and she is Maanvi now, and has always been a woman. But Manu's reaction is, like, you were born a man, like you're a man, and he doesn't understand what transgender was. This is where
gender's a social construct.
Yeah, this is where in the film when we get the scene where he's sitting. I don't know if he's sitting on a couch or he's just sitting in a chair somewhere. I can't remember exactly, but he's sitting down looking on his phone, doing this research on his cell phone of what transgender really is. And this is the moment where I realize, wow, the protagonist of this story really did have no idea what transgender was. Like from the beginning, he really did not understand what transgender really meant. And I don't want to say that I really forgive him for that, but it really gave me a much better understanding of why he was freaking out that much over what was going on, because he really, like, I guess I would assume he probably was never taught anything about transgender.
I'm sure he wasn't, yeah.
Probably no one talked to him about it. Maybe his community or anyone around him never brought it up to him. But I would think that this is just something that was probably never talked to him about ever. Yeah.
I mean, like you said, it's great that he has this understanding, and he starts to understand and like and gets it, and he realizes like, no, she is a woman. Like, I still love her, but as you said, yes, seeing that scene, you realize he just was not exposed to it. He had no idea. So that's why he had like such a visceral reaction in the beginning. But at the same time, like, he said such horrible things that I don't think his redemption, quote unquote, is enough to make up for what he did. And I think, and they tried to make that a thing in the movie too, because like he shows up at the hospital and Maanvi just is like, get away from me.
Right.
Like, I do not want you back. I don't care like that you're now suddenly understanding me and you're like okay with it. So I think they tried to do that. And I mean, to end the movie happy, obviously they have to get back together. But it just, I don't know, it's hard for me to come to terms with the fact that she would take him back. And I think too, one of the things that kind of upset me about this movie is that like it seemed like a lot of the ending and him, accepting Maanvi for who she is. So it made the movie seem like it was like, how brave of Manu, right? Like, how brave of Manu to love this woman, and to like, love this woman and not care what people say. And it took away from like what I think should have been the bigger thing, which is like how brave of Maanvi to like live her truth. She lives through it every day. Like, why should Manu get a pat on the back? I mean, it's like I kind of struggle with it.
I mean, I don't know if I'd call it a pat on the back for Manu, but I guess the film is trying to tell us, like, Manu, you are a dumb son of a bitch, basically, for not understanding what, like, transgender is in the first place. Second of all, how did you not like ease up when she explained to you who she is? Like, did you really have to be that much of an asshole? Like, you loved this woman and you still love this woman like throughout the entire film. Like, stop being a jerk, understand the situation, until finally in the movie we're shown that he's going to sit there and do his research, open a textbook, aka your cell phone, and look up what it means to be transgender, and he starts to see, oh, okay, this is what that means. And upon finally doing that and then visiting a doctor to get an explanation, where she says, if you love this woman, then don't think so hard about it.
To hell with everything.
Yeah, pretty much. She's like, if you love her, then nothing else matters. Like, if you love her for who she is, then that's all that matters. And he's like, wow, like, I'm like, clearly I'm overthinking everything.
Yeah. I mean, but then he does have his redemption. Like, at the hospital, he stands up for Maanvi, like, to her family, and even to his own family. They show up at the hospital and they're like, Manu, get away from that thing, essentially. They're like, get in the car. And
I mean, you were saying, like, we don't need to give Manu a pat on the back, but on the other side, it's like, well, you kind of do a little bit for that.
We do, but at the same time, I don't know, I just felt like, I don't know, I was reading this article too from someone who was also dating a trans woman, and they were talking about this movie, and their argument was kind of the same, where it's like, we shouldn't be considered brave, right, for dating a woman. You know what I mean? Like, the focus should be on them for like living their true self and being, who they want to be. It just, and I get it, it's a movie. It was so much like, Yeah, Manu, how brave of you.
Well, why do we have to look at it as a sign of bravery?
Well, because that's what it is, Adam. He like stood up when Sandy was like, oh, look, your thing is here, like blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no, I'm going to be proud of her and date her anyway. You know what I mean? It was all about like Manu and not Maanvi.
I'm just trying to understand that.
Because like, so how the movie ends, you know, he leaves, they separate at the hospital. We don't know what's happening. And then the next day is his goat competition. And he's not doing great. He's not doing bad, but he's not doing great. And then it's down to like the very last thing. And he needs to lift however many things to win.
Well, this is the inspiration we get from Maanvi in this moment. This is what he needs.
Right. He's like, it seems like he's not going to win, but then Maanvi shows up and he gets the strength that he needs to lift this big old dumbbell above.
I mean, that's the strength that I always need in anything. If ever I'm about to fail a competition, I need, Maanvi to show up.
You should have said me. Damn. I see where I fall in this relationship. Wow.
If she can help him lift weights, then...
Do I not give you the strength you need, Adam?
I need a goat.
An actual goat? I don't think we can have those in Chicago.
Let me just say I was not comparing Maanvi to a goat. It's just the competition was...
obviously. Yeah. But anyway, Maanvi shows up. Manu wins the competition, and all is happy in the end. We're all together. So it ends with a happy ending. Yeah. And the dad, too. He gets a new woman.
Which he was also very much put down by Manu many times.
Oh, well, I didn't realize what was happening during the movie, but when I was looking up later, it's because the woman that he was dating was like of a different religious faith. So it was like an interfaith relationship. And so that's why, like Manu and the sisters were kind of against her.
See, very similar sort of situation.
But then at the end, he's like, screw y'all, I'm going to get my woman.
Yeah, see?
Yeah, I think...
Irony at its finest.
I think overall, it's a good... it's an important movie. As we started off with, you don't have very many, even in Hollywood today, you don't have a lot of films that look at, transgender main characters. We're just now kind of getting at the point where we have a lot more of non-heterosexual,
Right.
And... So I think it's just such a big deal that a movie like this was made at the time it was, where it was.
Absolutely. And I think it's definitely a topic that should be discussed, during the times now, during previous times in our lives.
I think it's going to pave the way for a lot more LGBT related movies in Bollywood.
Absolutely. And on that note, I think it's time we dive into some other perspectives on this film, which to my fascination and not to my surprise, very interested to see the Rotten Tomatoes review or reviews on this film. And wow, the reviews currently 82% from the critics and 100% from the audience.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was within 24 hours of its release, online streaming, it became the most streamed content. So it's popular. It took off. And it seems like, too, a lot of the, India Times and some of the other media outlets in India were all kind of giving the movie 3.5 to 4 stars. So it was getting pretty good reviews overall.
Yeah, it's pretty... It's busting. It's doing pretty good. Busting. Yeah, it's up there. So, Laura, is there any other reviews that you saw out there?
Those are the big ones. Like I said, just looking at India Times and some other ones, they gave it 3.5 or 4. It was the most streamed content. It did win a few awards so far already. So it won the film with the biggest social impact from ITA Awards. It also won something called Best Power Pack Performance. I don't know if that's related to the weightlifting or what. I don't know. I didn't really look into that one very much. But it seems overall this movie, I mean, because of what it is, rightly so, has been having a pretty big impact.
That's cool. We'll definitely have to keep our eyes peeled for anything else that comes up with this film. And on that note, I'd say it's time for our slurps up or slurps down of this movie. Slurps up meaning we highly recommend it. We say that you should go check it out, and we think that it is worth watching. And slurps down meaning we don't think you should watch it. We don't think it's good, and we don't think that you should click the play button. Laura?
Yeah, I think I do have some things, as I do with every movie. I don't think there's few movies in this world that are like absolutely perfect. There are some things that I was kind of iffy about and I wish was done a little bit differently. But overall, like the importance of this movie and what its content is and, what we're seeing within it is just so, so, so important that like, obviously I'm giving this movie a slurps up. I think it's important not even just for people in watching Bollywood movies, just people in India. Like this is such a hot button topic everywhere in the world, especially even in the US. Like we don't have a movie like this, I feel like, here in Hollywood. So I think this is a great movie to watch as the director wanted, as I said earlier, too, like to just expose people to the world, and what's out there and like make people be more accepting, which is, I think, one of the biggest problems in our world right now is that people just don't accept others for who they are. So this movie definitely gets a slurps up for me. And on top of it, like the acting, we barely talked about it, but the actress who plays Maanvi, she just played the character so well. Like she's a great actress. She did it so well. And Manu, he was also great. Like the comedic bits that we had from the twins and the sisters. The casting's great. Visually, it's beautiful. It's not many, like, I have things that I wish were done better, but I don't really have any big complaints. So definitely slurps up. I think it's certainly worth a watch. What about you? How do you feel?
I have to say that I 100% agree. I would definitely slurps up on this movie. I think that the topic is definitely something to dive into with this film. And that's really the biggest reason I would definitely check out this movie, is because there's not a lot of movies out there that really go deep into the subject of the LGBTQ matters as deep and with such depth, especially into the way that the script was written with this movie. The realism that this movie really focuses around, that it's really just the way that this movie did it, I think, is entertaining. It's fun, and at the same time, it's also really very dark and very real. So you're really kind of getting a best of both worlds with this movie. On one side, you're kind of, one moment you're laughing and you're thinking, wow, that's kind of funny. And then very, very quickly and afterwards, you're like, oh, dang, this really got dark and real, like I was just saying. So, yeah, I think it's definitely a learning lesson for life to think about what is going on in the real world and take a mental note that this is something that you have to think about for what's going on around you. Just to be aware of. And I think I very much appreciate watching this movie for that. And I was still very entertained watching this movie. I think it was a wonderful movie to watch, and I really enjoyed just the music and the dancing, and just to see the diversity between the scenes at the gym, the scenes, outside between characters, things like that. So yeah, definitely slurps up. Definitely recommend. And with that being said, that wraps it up for this episode of Screen Slurps. Be sure to follow us on social media at Screen Slurps on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. And be sure to listen to us on Spotify, Ghana, or just about any other podcast streaming service out there. And if you enjoy what you hear, slide on over to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star rating. It will help us a lot. And if there's any crazy movies you want to hear about, let us know. Leave a comment on one of our social media pages, and trust me when I say we will be sure to talk about it. So, closing out, I'm Adam Meisner.
And I'm Laura Herlocker.
Slurps up, and we will catch you later.